Now let's take a closer look at the local market. I spoke to Martin Lakos from Macquarie Private Wealth. Martin Lakos, the share market recovered all its early losses. That seems to have been due to the encouraging employment numbers. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, Phil, very much so. The market was down about 20 points following weak markets overnight in Europe, although a recovery in the US. But our market was down about 20 prior to the numbers coming out at 11:30. And as soon as the surprise number came out, showing better than expected full-time employment and better than expected net employment rising, the market did recover. We were up about 12 at one stage through the day, closing almost square. But what was interesting, Phil, was that the news overnight wasn't all that great. China had raised rates overnight by 25 basis points. That was hit the European markets. We had Moody's looking to downgrade the Portuguese debt position, although EU officials were trying to hose that down and minimise the effect of that. And then we had the US markets, which were weak earlier on, and rebounded. And then, interestingly, part of the US markets, we saw the transport index much stronger, which is often a bit of a proxy for improving economic recovery.
Agribusinesses seem to have had a bit of good news last night. The way was cleared for a resumption of cattle exports to Indonesia. How has that affected key agribusiness stocks?
Yeah, well, the agri sector is really not that well represented in the stock market in terms of the number of companies and the size of the sector. But Elders really was the best performer, up about 6% on the back of this news. We also had Prime Ag, which is actually down 3%. And we also had Australian Agriculture up about 1%. So a bit mixed there in that respect, but they've all obviously in different parts of the agricultural sector, different parts of that segment.
What about Austar? Austar's been under the spotlight again over the potential merger with Foxtel. Are we any the wiser?
No, look, not really. There was more speculation in the press that a deal was closer. If you remember back in late May, Austar announced that they were in discussions with Foxtel in regards to a 100% takeover. They are progressing that. The stock was up about 1% today, but not that they're dismissing the speculation, but basically saying discussions are ongoing and they'll keep the market informed as they progress.
And building materials company CSR has held its annual general meeting. What was of significance for investors?
Well, the significance was at the AGM was that they gave no guidance, no positive or negative guidance for 2012. They were saying certainly conditions remain difficult. They certainly were saying that their expectation of the Queensland flood recovery to take place, but they're really not able to give numbers on the back of that. Big commentary around their balance sheet was actually very positive. They're looking for some bolt-on acquisitions in the size of $25 to $100 million. They've got capacity up to about $400 million, according to our numbers. But it's also interesting, Phil, that giving no guidance is quite interesting. We are not that far away from the start of our reporting season. And so the confession season, the time when companies can actually correct market analysts if there's a big disparity between analysts' forecasts and how they're going to deliver those results, we've seen very little of that coming through so far.
Well, Martin Lakos, we thank you as always for your guidance. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Phil.